Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to finally record another books related video, and it's 2025 and that means new reading goals. So for the last few years I was making those lists, 22 for 2022, 23 for 2023, and now we're in 25, so that means this video is about 25 books that I picked for this year. It wasn't an easy task to pick them. I had to browse all my shelves, physical and digital, and pick books that would spike my interest, because amount of physical books, amount of digital books that I have is insane. But looking now at the piles that I managed to combine, not all of them I found on the shelves, but I think that majority from this list I have on paper, which is great. So it will help me also to clean some space on my shelves, especially for the books that would be one-time reading. I'll try to be short since I don't know much about the books. For most of them, I don't know the plot. I just know that I heard some reviews and it was mentioned here and there. So there is no point of actually making it long, and I'd rather speak about them when I'll actually read them. So let's maybe start. No, I will tell you about those few kind of categories of how I was trying to pick them. So I've decided to tackle quite ambitious list this year. Some of them are beloved classics that I've been planning to read forever. Some of them are newer discoveries from contemporary literature. Some of them are fantasy, like first volumes of some fantasy cycles that I was curious about and never tried or was scared by the volume of it. There is one or maybe two nonfiction books, I think. I'm not sure, maybe one and a half, let's say that. And there's even one graphic novel. So the idea behind the list was to fill in the gaps that I have, and the idea of this video was to share with you my list and hopefully inspire you to pick up some of those books as well, so that later on we can discuss them in the new videos. Let's start. It's actually hard to keep them on my lap. Let's see. So the first one in the list is The Tin Drum by Günter Grass. I'll show you the books if I have them. If I don't, I will put the covers on the video. It's one of the most significant works of German post-war literature. I've been living in Germany for quite some time now, and to my shame, I still didn't read any of the German classics. So this book should be covering for two different things. It should be covering for classics, and also, as far as I know, Günter Grass won a Nobel Prize for Literature. So I'm not sure if it was for this book or for any other, but that's another point, to read another author that won a Nobel Prize for Literature. Check. Let's continue, otherwise we will never finish this video. The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. It's a very interesting edition from the cheap publisher of English classics in Turkey. It's actually funny, every time I go there the price is actually changing. So here it's 40 Turkish liras, which right now is, I guess, €1 or around €1. Anyway, another classic that I have on my list that I want to cover. I don't know much about the plot. I know that it might have some autobiographical resemblance with his own life, and that's basically it. The third one on the list is not, it's a Russian book, so I will check how is it. I don't know if it's translated, but it's called No Day Without a Line, and it's written by Yuri Olesha. He has a novel that he wrote before that, and it was quite well accepted in Soviet times, and since then, until the end of his life, he didn't publish anything. So this book was published actually after his death, and it's not exactly a journal, not a diary. It's a compilation of his notes, I would say, his introspective notes, some ideas that he had, or some reactions on certain events that he experienced during the times when he was writing it. So I'm curious to. I started it actually. I started it a little bit at the end of last year, at the last few days of December, and it was pretty nice. I really liked his idea. So he's saying I'm not a writer, but everyone can write. So if I cannot write a book, I can write this, and then that's my contribution to the literature. Even though he wrote something before, but yeah, I'm curious where it's gonna go, what he will mention in this book, and I will share with you once I finished. How was it? Okay, next one. The fourth one, is it? Yes, the fourth one. And that's another Russian book, another classics. This time it's a Russian classics. It's called Farewell to Matyora, written by Valentin Rasputin. It's set in a small Siberian village, which is about to be flooded to be able to construct a hydroelectric dam, and that's all I know about the plot and what's going to happen there. So it's actually pretty big. So it's funny how Russian editions are so big. So let me show you. So in this book there is 600 pages. This book, this thick. And in this book, I will take a tin drum, is also 600 pages. So can you tell me how is that possible with this difference in thickness? Both are 600 pages. Like, I don't know if you can see, there's like one fifth or even more is missing, like 1/3 is missing. It's crazy. Anyway, so that was another classic. Next one is in the list is another Russian book, which is pretty new. I think it was published last year. And it's called And They Lived Happily Ever After. It's written by Alena Selyutina. It's definitely not translated yet. I don't know if it will be. I heard the good reviews about it from the booktubers that I'm watching in the Russian segment, and I got curious. I would say it's a fantasy based on some fairy tale characters. So the author brought together into one world a lot of characters from different fairy tales, and yeah, something happened there. I actually finished this book already in the beginning of January, and I felt pretty good about it, so I really liked it. It was a nice, cute combination of characters, and they were pretty distinct, and the world that was created out of it was also, I mean, it cannot be believable because it's all fairy tales, but it was really nice following the story. It was interesting, catchy, so I was listening it for a few hours in a row for a few days. So yeah, it's nice. Do I have any other adjective except nice? I will tell you in the January wrap-up of more about this book. The next book in this list is another legendary classic by now, and it's The Hobbit. It's another big gap in my reading list, which this year I'm trying to fix, because I watched the movies actually a few times. I think 2 or 3 times I definitely watched them. And I never read the first source. So this is the attempt to at least get into that world again and see the beauty of the author's language. Because I'm sure that however good the movies can be, the Tolkien's language should be even better. So here's another classic. Next one in the list, and guess what? It's kind of another classic, or at least well-known book that is written by Knut Hamsun, and it's his Hunger. What do I know about the plot? I know that we're gonna be taken inside the mind of a struggling writer. The book is set in 19th century Norway, and it explores themes of poverty, fragility of the human physique. It also has an introduction by Paul Auster, who actually is also in the list, but a bit later. So, okay, Knut Hamsun. So, next one. I don't know how many of you will know that. This is an English translation of Turkish book Aylin by Ayşe Kulin. So every time we go to Turkey, I'm trying to bring with us some Turkish books that are translated to English, which are not so many, except the authors that are known worldwide, like Orhan Pamuk or Elif Shafak. So this one is less known, but there is still, if you search hard enough, you can find a few. And yeah, by now I have quite some pile of those English translations of some Turkish books, and I want to touch this pile as much as I want to touch the classics. So this is the one I picked for this year, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. And here we go, and it's Paul Auster. So I mentioned his introduction in Hamsun book. So here's his book, and I read his winter journal a few years ago in summer. It was a non-fiction, and this one is fiction. So this, as far as I know, it has some detective stories in it, and we are following a journalist or writer. Yeah, that's all I know, and we'll see. I hope I will like it, because I have a lot of other books by Paul Auster in my physical shelf. What's next? I have another board here. Yes, I finally can put it on the table. I don't know which way I should continue. I think this is the right way. So next one is Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. I read her book for the book club. Actually, I read it even before. I read her Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, and I really liked it. It was a nice detective story in a rural setting. During the book club discussion, people were mentioning that they also read Flights, and that for some of them who started their path with the Flights and then read the Drive Your Plow, they liked the Flights more. So I'm curious to see which one would I like more. And yeah, in general, I liked her style, and this is the book. Next one is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. 2 years ago, there was a literary festival in Berlin that we attended, and one of the main guests was Jeffrey Eugenides. So I didn't read his books, I only heard reviews about them, and we tried to start at least some part of it before, so we could see his style and do we like it or not. And yeah, it was quite interesting. I know that there is also movies made from his other book, The Virgin Suicide. So that's also on my shelf to read. But let's see. For this one, after the talk, he was having a signing session. So I also got my copy signed, which is really nice. It makes it even more precious and gives me more desire to read it. Let's continue. Yeah, okay. Gabriel García Márquez and his Chronicle of the Death Foretold. I had this book, it's another classic, and I had this book in the list for last year. So this is a book that's gonna cover for previous unfinished to-dos, and hopefully I will read it here, because look, it's what, 100 pages, 120 pages with a pretty huge font, so I should be able to finish it. What did I read before? I read before 100 Years of Solitude and Love in Time of Cholera, and I liked both of them. I could clearly see the style. You can unmistakably say that both of them belong to Márquez, even if it would be set in a different village. But by the way he writes, by the way he describes characters, you cannot mistake it. So I'm really curious about this one. I again heard positive reviews about this book, so yeah, another book in the list. So next one is Disgrace by G.M. Coetzee. I'm not sure how do you pronounce his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know much about the book. As you can see, if you can read it, it's probably too far. The author won Nobel Prize for Literature in 2003 and also won a Booker Prize, so double check for the prizes. Story, I think it was somewhere in South Africa, which also geographically some new setting for me. And yeah, that's in my list. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I think now 2 years or 3 years ago we read Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and it was so funny, so humorous. You would think that it's written for kids and you should read it when you are small, but no, it was really funny, and it was, I don't know, I think if I would read it as a child, I would probably enjoy it. I would probably relate myself more with the main character and all the adventures that he had, but I wouldn't understand that much the parts about older parents and grandparents there. So I'm actually happy that I read it when I was already in an older age and understood much more and could relate myself more with the older generation as well as with the young one as well, because I'm not too far from them. So it's like I was in between and I could relate to both. So it was double the value without reading it twice. So I hope that this one will be as great as the other one. We sometimes read books together with my boyfriend, so Tom Sawyer we read also together, and this one is also planned for reading together evenings. Yep. Let's continue. I don't know if I can show it because the cover, I will show it with the other way. Maybe you know it by the cover, or can I show the other? No, I would spare it. So this is the graphic novel that I was mentioning I have on the list, and this is The Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Everyone read it by now, and I think people haven't stopped talking about it. Probably it will pop up more now with all the tendencies we have in the world, but I'm still missing it in my reading experience, in my reader's life. So it's been in my list, I think 2 years, 22 and 23, or 21 and 22. I don't know. It's been on my radar for a very long time. So this year is the year, and I was always thinking I can finish it anytime because it's short and it's a comic book. How long can the comic book take to read? And here we go. It's been a few times on my list and I still didn't finish it. This year I'm gonna finish it. Next one, another half-eaten book, Possession by Anatolia Beit. I mean, as you can see, I read one I would say 1/4 of it. It was a group for co-reading, not a book club, but we would just discuss. We would agree on how much we would read and discuss it afterwards. And at some point, I couldn't keep up with the pace because of the other events in my life. So I stopped, and here's 1/4 finished. Probably I will start it over because I remember only parts and I want to have it all fresh. But yeah, that's another book that I keep hearing great reviews about. And I was also inspired by, well, from the parts that I read, how much the author invented for this book, which is incredible. I love it. It's not just a story, but it's a story within a story, plus letters, some history. It's amazing. So if you want to pick something interesting for this year, I would definitely recommend this one. So next one, let's see. This is a non-fiction one. I think it's only one. I mean, if you count the No Day Without a Line as a non-fiction, then it's second one. But yeah, this is definitely non-fiction. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I hope I'm reading it correctly. And I will just tell you the summary here. The effects of trauma can be devastating for sufferers, their families, and future generations. Here, one of the world's experts on traumatic stress offers a bold new paradigm for treatment, moving away from standard Tolkien and drug therapies and towards an alternative approach that heals mind, brain, and body. So, trauma, transformation of trauma in the mind, in the brain, in the body. I think everyone right now needs something like this, and I'm hoping to read it this year. Next book, and it's another classic. It's Of Human Bondage by William Somerset Maugham. I read another of his books, and it was Painted Veil, which was pretty good. And I read it for the book club. We had a discussion, and I liked his style. I like the story, how he progresses with it. So I wanted to try it out. And this is another one, like one of his major works. So even though it's a brick, I would say that I'm not scared of the volume anymore, and I hope that I will read it this year. And it's also another classic. I think I said it right. And another classic, if you didn't have enough, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It's a half-eaten book. By now I'm 1/5, 1/3, I don't know, some part of it in. I had a great idea of having a reading journal about this book as a video. I started it in November, and then I got distracted as always. So hopefully I will manage to finish it and compile the whole video, because by now I'm also starting to lose the content of it, so maybe I will have to go back sometime and half of it, but we'll see. So yeah, another classic to cover to fill the gap, Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, this year. What else? And it's the last paperback that I have with me, unfortunately, because there's probably a few more books that I'm missing. So this is, I would say, a contemporary thing. So it's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. And again, it's slightly started book. You can see the bookmark again here. What do I remember from it? So we were following a young boy, who was very smart. And I know that it's about some kind of a trauma. I think his father died. Yeah, his father dies, and it's September 11th. So, and it's a 9-year-old boy. I am every time inspired to read a book told from the perspective of a child or teenager, because it always wonderful to see how different their view at the world is. And we keep, like, with the age, we tend to forget how it is, how different it might be. And I'm hoping that this book will remind me of this child's perspective of the world. So we have 4 books left, which I couldn't find in paper. I have 3 of them in paper. Let's go over them. The first one of them is The Man Who Was Thursday by J.K. Chesterton, which everything I know about it is that it's some surrealistic nightmare, dreamlike adventure. I have it somewhere as a part of the complete works of Chesterton, I guess, or some kind of compilation of his works. So that's one. Another one is Pierre Goriot by Honoré de Balzac. I had it on my radar, my favorite phrase this video, right? This is a story of a devoted father who's sacrificing, I don't know, everything or not, who's making sacrifices for his beloved daughters, and that leads to his downfall. We would see a story of betrayal from one side and parental love from another. I don't know more about it, but it's a French classic and I wanted to read it for quite some time. I also don't think I had any book with a setting in Paris, so that would be also interesting to see. What's next? So this one I don't have in paper, and probably I won't. I have it as an audio, and I try to collect this series, by the way, but the first one that I have is actually the 4th book in this series. So this is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, and this is the Wheel of Time series. I watched the series, that are TV series, and I like the story, but I'm sure they are missing some details there, because it's also really fast in developing, and I want to dive into this world more deeply to see more details. And The Eye of the World is the first one. I have it in audio format, read by Rosamund Pike, which is also a main actress in a TV series. Yeah, that's my attempt to get into the fantasy world. I'm actually not a big fantasy reader, and if you can see from the list that I'm making now, most of them are fiction books, but they're set in our world, in the past or in the future. And the last book that I have in this list, 25 for 25, so the 25th book, is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's another classic, another gap. This one is pretty short, so I'm hoping that if I won't finish the big monsters, 600 pages long monsters, then at least I will hopefully finish this one. So, but yeah, okay, here I know the kind of story, so it's just a matter of details, the matter of writing, and the matter of reading it by myself, not just being told what happened there, because of course it's used, the references to it are used everywhere. So that was 25 books for 2025, and let me know if you read any of those books. How did you like them? And if you're creating those kind of lists for yourself, please share with me. I'm curious to see what books do you include for this year. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.